to Monday Musings with the Blended Mama, gentle encouragement for busy women finding calm in the chaos. I'm Teresa, and I'm really glad you're here with me this morning. Whether you are starting your week with your planner open, you are driving to work, or maybe you're even just folding laundry while this plays in the background, thank you for spending a few minutes with me today. Now, over the last few weeks, we've been talking about some of the habits from How Women Rise that can quietly hold us back. We have talked about claiming our achievements, letting go of perfection, and not minimizing our gifts or our stories. And this week, we're going to be talking about another habit that caught my attention. It's habit number 6. So yes, we are still out of order, but we are kind of working ourselves backwards, I think. And that is putting our job before our career. Now, before you think, well, this one doesn't apply to me because I'm not trying to climb the corporate ladder, just stay with me for a bit because honestly, I've never really thought of myself as a ladder climber. And even after more than 20 years with the same company, that has never been my goal, is still not really my goal. But there have been some shifts within me over the last few years. And it's not because I suddenly want a different title or I'm unhappy with my role, but it's really because I've been seeing my work differently and seeing how I can contribute differently. I have realized that some of the most valuable leadership lessons I've learned didn't actually come from my day job, but instead they came from leading direct sales teams with over 40, 50 women, running a small business, running a restaurant with my husband, facilitating our book club discussions with our membership group, and building a community of women who encourage one another, and even learning that not everyone thinks the way that I do, which is actually a good thing, right? But those experiences taught me how to listen differently, how to ask better questions, how to encourage people instead of simply giving them answers. And one day it kind of just hit me that those lessons had quietly followed me back into my day job. They are changing the way that I show up for my coworkers and for the people that I work with. And it's not because my actual job role changed, but it's because I changed, right? And that has me thinking that maybe growth isn't always about changing jobs. Maybe it's about becoming the kind of person who can contribute in new ways wherever you already are. So recently we've had some movement of roles within our company and within my department. And part of that has meant that I'm now helping train new employees while continuing to do my own work. And something I started even before this, but I don't know, a year or 2 years ago, is actually keeping a journal at work. And it's not anything fancy, right? It's just one of my dot grid inserts. But it's a place where I can jot things down that happen throughout the day, right? There's random email requests and things that just happen. And most of it just comes through email. And you guys probably all know how easy it is for things to get lost in email, right? So I started writing things down, partly because my memory is not perfect. Thank you, perimenopause. But mostly it's because when work gets busy, it's easy for those important things to kind of slip through the cracks. But also it helps me to understand what are people coming to me for that I need to help train someone else to be able to respond to as well. Because you don't want to be the only person that knows how to do something, right? You want to train someone else to do that. So as I've been doing this, I have noticed how much experience quietly lives in the ordinary, right? It's the little things I do without thinking. It's those emails that just come to me and I just respond, right? Conversations I naturally have because people just send me a message or pick up the phone and call me. Problems that I know how to solve simply because I've been there before, I've done it, and people just keep coming back because I've fixed it in the past. And it's definitely not that I'm anything extraordinary or that other people aren't capable. It's just people got used to coming to me because those 20 years of showing up faithfully at work has taught me that things can't really be learned. Some things really can't be learned from a training manual. They have to be learned from experience. And I have to be willing to share that with other people and not just leave it with me and get frustrated whenever people aren't helping, right? Like that doesn't serve anybody. So it has also made me wonder how many things that you are doing today that feel ordinary, but are really quietly preparing you for what's next. Maybe you are raising children or you're caring for aging parents. Maybe you are building business one relationship at a time, or maybe you're volunteering at church. Maybe you are learning how to navigate a difficult season. It can be so easy for us to think, I'm just answering emails, I'm just posting on social media, I'm just making dinner, I'm just showing up. And there's that little word again that we talked about last week, just. And I have caught myself doing that within my own business, because some days it feels like I'm just recording another podcast episode, I'm just writing another email, I'm just creating another Facebook post. But when I step back and kind of look at the bigger picture, I'm not just creating content, right? I am building relationships. I'm building trust with people just like you. And I'm creating this community where women can encourage one another and remember that growth doesn't have to happen alone, right? And those ordinary tasks suddenly don't feel quite so ordinary anymore because they are connected to a bigger picture. And another thing I've learned over the years, especially within entrepreneurship, is that growth isn't linear, right? Sometimes it feels like we're making incredible progress, and other times it feels like we've taken 2 steps backwards. And then there are seasons where everything just seems to click naturally, and seasons where it feels like we're simply trying to keep our heads above water and you're having to just pull things, right? But that doesn't mean that growth has stopped. Sometimes a season that feels the slowest is actually preparing us the most. And sometimes the lessons we're learning today become exactly what someone else needs us to share tomorrow. And that is part of why I love our quarterly planning with a 12-week year planning process. So if you followed me for very long, you know that's kind of what I use. But every few months, I sit down with my planner, I revisit my goals, and I spend some time reflecting on my word of the year, not because I expect everything to go according to plan, because it definitely doesn't, but because it helps me to zoom out. And instead of just asking myself, what do I need to accomplish, right? Um, it's a different question. It's who am I becoming, and is that where I want to go, right? Do things on the calendar help me become that person or to accomplish that task? Because sometimes the greatest progress isn't just checking another box, but it's becoming someone who's a little wiser, a little more patient, a little more confident, a little more willing to serve, and maybe a little more prepared for what comes next. But before we wrap up today, I do want to leave you with a question. You can grab a sticky note. Listen, I've always got sticky notes handy because that's life, right? But I want you to just ask this question to yourself. What ordinary work in your life might actually be preparing you for something bigger? And I'll say it again so you can write it down. Grab your planner really quick, friends. What ordinary work in your life might actually be preparing you for something bigger? Maybe that's a conversation. Maybe it's some sort of challenge. Maybe it's a responsibility you never would have chosen. Maybe it's simply another faithful day of showing up. So your action for this week, your next step is simple. As you're planning your week, don't just look at your to-do list. I want you to take a moment to ask yourself, who am I becoming through the things I'm doing this week? And write down one word that describes that. Maybe it's patient. Maybe it's courageous or faithful, confident or compassionate. Whatever it is that comes to mind, I want you to write that down and let that word guide you as you move through your week. Now, you may not feel like you're building anything extraordinary today. Maybe you're answering emails or packing lunches, leading another meeting, recording another podcast, or encouraging one more friend. But every conversation, every challenge, every lesson, every act of faithfulness is becoming is becoming part of the person you're becoming. Sorry, I'm tripping up on my own words, friends. You don't have to have your whole future figured out. I don't think any of us have that much foresight to be able to do that. But you do need to just keep saying yes to opportunities to learn, to grow, to serve, and to trust that today's faithfulness is preparing you for tomorrow's opportunities. Thank you for spending a few minutes with me this morning. Friends, I need a little more caffeine. I'm really trying hard to get back on my routine. I do have my tea. but I probably should have made it a caffeinated one, apparently. Anyway, if this episode encouraged you, I would love for you to share it with a friend who might need this reminder. You will find links in the show notes to learn more about our Purpose in Progress membership group. You can download my free 10-minute reset bookmark, explore some of my favorite planning resources, and I will give you a heads up if you are a planner friend. We are launching all of our new products today. So it is a fall catalog launch with Tula 12 Paper Co. So you can find the link to that in the comments or in the show notes rather, or you can go to theblendedmama.com/shop and you will find the link to all of my favorite things. But until next time, friends, remember that today's faithfulness is preparing you for tomorrow's opportunities. I will see you next Monday, and until then, plan with purpose, coordinate